Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and today I'm gonna talk about Chris Eubank Jr. versus Benn, which is without a doubt an instant classic in my opinion. A fucking war that was. I don't care if I'm gonna be accused of recency bias. I say this with my chest. That was one of the best fights of the last decade. It was action packed all the way through, up until the final bell. These guys were throwing. They both gave it all they got. Both of their hearts were on full display, and both have enormous heart. But let's start with the scoring, right? I personally had it either 7-5 or 8-4 for Chris Eubank Jr. Just as I called in my prediction video, I said that the first 4 rounds were going to be very competitive because that's when Conor will be in his absolute best, where he would be the most destructive and explosive. A fighter who likes to blitz are at their best when they're fresh, after all, right? And that's just how it turned out. I had them winning 2 rounds apiece after 4 rounds. And as a Eubank supporter, truthfully, I will admit that the first 3 rounds were very, very nerve-wracking. Eubank just looked flat. He came in the fight looking flat. He tried to establish his jab, but he was just so slow and lethargic. And from the first round on, the speed difference was clear. And Eubank's legs had no strength to them. They weren't firm. Eubank looked like he was moving in slow motion in comparison to Benn, who was so explosive and has so much venom in every shot. And he was so filled with energy. The way he would bounce in and out, it was effortless. And all the feints, I was so anxious for Eubank, I'm not gonna lie. I literally thought that it was only a matter of time until Eubank got caught. I immediately thought of, the weight cut and the rehydration clause, and I absolutely doubted that Eubank would even settle in or find his second wind. I thought the longer the fight goes, the more it favors Benn, right? And then bang, the first scary moment of the fight occurs in round 3, where Eubank was left wobbling and he gripped on Benn like his life depended on it. Because truthfully, it did. In that moment, he was on the verge of getting knocked down or even out. And I'm telling y'all, as I was watching, I was sweating, not gonna lie. But then round 4 comes along and Eubank comes out strong. He let his hands go in combination and hit the body and head and had Conor backing up. And in doing so, he controlled the distance and the pace of the fight, right? The fight slowed down and he now started dictating how it was going to go. And Eubank got in a bit of a rhythm. He found his groove. And in my opinion, he comfortably won rounds 4 all the way to round 7. His jab was terrific. His combination punching was precise. His shot selection and shot placement was on point. He kept on landing compact jabs and short 1-2s, and his uppercuts were landing, and his check hooks too. Eubank was brilliant offensively for a few rounds there. The difference in IQ and experience was also showed in the middle rounds. Eubank just looked like he knew exactly what Benn wanted to do, and his defense and counter punching was just superb in these rounds. He kept the right guard tight to block Conor's left hook, and he did a superb job rolling and slipping Conor's right hands. He also used his lead shoulder to block a lot of it, and his catch and shoot game was just so good. Eubank also did a fine job tying up Conor and forcing the ref to separate the two and reset. The levels was just really showing. The IQ difference was really showing. But then, round 8 happens, where Eubank had another scary moment, similar to round 3, and he was on wobbly legs again. And once again, he held on for dear life. And this round completely just swung the momentum of the fight. Round 9 and 10 were very good rounds for Benn. Eubank just looked completely gassed, like he was just running on fumes. His punches had nothing behind them, and multiple times did he look like he was ready to fall over. But he somehow manages to keep himself up and keep throwing. And his will to not only survive, but to win was very, very apparent in these rounds. In the championship rounds, in rounds 11 and 12, Eubank imposed his will. I believe this is the round where he started to excessively smother Benn, right? And the commentators, they were a little bit confused why, but to me it was pretty clear why he was doing that. His legs were no longer operable. they were just there to keep him up. He couldn't box on the outside and move, so he just decided to go toe to toe with the slugger, But he knew that Benn wasn't a great inside fighter and that he needed space to generate his explosive power. So Eubank smothered him to extinguish that power by giving him no room to operate. So he tried his very hardest to keep himself attached to Benn while letting his hands go in rounds 11 and 12. And these two were just going to war back and forth in the last two rounds. Several scary moments for both men where it looked like they were only a punch or two from just collapsing. And the crowd was going crazy, and I'm going crazy because it's clear to them and everybody watching that for these two warriors right here, defeat was unthinkable. They simply refused to lose. They simply refused to stop or let up. They knew that this pain that they're currently experiencing and all this fatigue was only temporary. They had a duty to their fathers, to their family that meant bigger than the moment. They were not gonna disappoint their dads. There was just too much riding on this one fight. And the fans, the commentators, and everybody who was watching knew that. And I believe that everybody who was watching felt their passion and appreciated their courage and respect the hell out of them for that. And the cheering from the crowd was evidence of that. And then the final bell finally rung and the crowd roared. An incredible fight delivered by another Eubank and another Benn, as well as another victory by the Eubanks over the Benns. And I'm still in awe just thinking about it. It was one scintillating fight. Not the highest of levels, but the entertainment factor was 100% absolutely through the roof. These two are warriors. They didn't have an ounce of quit in this fight. Honestly, especially Eubank. That man right there was ready to die in that ring. He would rather have died in there than lose to Conor Benn. What a fucking dog. And just quick words on the amazing job the promoters did at promoting this fight. The narrative that they built, the controversy and the drama that surrounded this fight, and the way the fight actually turned out. I don't know if there's anything more cinematic. Eubank Sr. coming out with Junior. I low-key had a feeling that it would happen, and I'm so glad that it did, because imagine Eubank Jr., digging that deep to uphold the family name and winning, and then Senior isn't anywhere to be found to give him a hug or tell him that he's proud of him. Truthfully speaking, for me, that would be heartbreaking. So I'm very glad that Senior did pull up. So salute to you, Mr. Eubank Sr. And salute to Nigel Benn as well. He played a major role in selling this fight. And every scene with his son were always so heartwarming. So, shout out to these two legends, Eubank Sr. and Nigel Benn. And of course, the two gladiators named Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. These two etched their name in the history books, not for their accomplishments, but for the greatness portrayed in this single night and in being part of such a historic event that may never happen again. So yeah, that's it for me. A long video, and I said a lot, but I'm telling you, I was so heavily invested in this fight. I've been waiting for this since 2022, and I'm so happy that after all that build-up, the fight exceeded expectations. So well done to everybody. But what do you think of the fight? What did you think of the scores? I'd like to thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have a lovely day.
Like a sweetie.
A what?
A sweetie.
I'll take a smartie.
These are smarties, indeed. A absolutely stupendous confectionery.